I've always said social media is a powerful thing, especially when it comes to finding stories such as these. And the way that I found this story was probably one of the last ways I would actually expect to learn about it. I actually found out about this story in an Instagram story. If you have an Instagram page, it's basically like their version of Snapchat. And I was scrolling through because there's somebody on there that I follow from Detroit, which is where this story is coming from. And I said, oh, I definitely got to speak about this. And the way that I found out about it is because someone left a raw, long Facebook post talking about what happened. But I found an article displaying about this story. So you can see in this picture right here, and this is actually a still image from a thumbnail from a video. Now, I don't have the video on hand, but if I do find it, I will put the link in the comment section below, and you can actually watch it for yourself, like the raw footage, where you had this high school football team who you can see right here down on the track. And if you look at the top where the railing is, you see a whole horde of white people. It literally looks like Jim Crow right there, and the divide is that railing. And basically what happened was this high school team, they took a knee during the national anthem. And then after the football game was played in which the team won, that's when the whole Jim Crow in 2019 kicked off. So I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to go ahead and read the article so you can get all the details. The post-game fracas between members of the Detroit Denby High School football team and Almont High escalated as Denby players were spit on, cursed at, and racially slurred, according to witnesses. Detroit Public Schools Community District Superintendent Nikolai Vitti said Sunday the school district was withholding any possible disciplinary action pending a review of Saturday's Division V state semifinal football game, which was called off early in the fourth quarter because of excessive personal fouls. Almont won the game 36-8 at Walled Lake Central High School. As the players were exiting the field, tensions escalated after a Denby player shoved an Almont band member. Almont fans then began hurling racial slurs at Denby players, some of whom reacted by throwing helmets or shoes or climbing a fence that separated fans from the playing field. Now, you see that. Throwing helmets and throwing shoes, these were the players of the opposite team right here. According to Denby head coach Dion Godfrey, the racist remarks included the N-word and began as early as when Denby players took a knee during the national anthem before the game. Our cameraman is white and was filming near some Almont fans, Godfrey said. During the national anthem, he overheard them saying, "Look at these N-words taking a knee, and they don't even know why they're doing it," and they kept going. Some of these palm colored people voted for 45 and don't know why they did it. I still remember when it was a local news affiliate asked this one palm colored woman, does she know what Make America Great Again means? And she said, I don't know, but she had an answer for everything else except that. Denby's white coaches also were being called wiggers. Now, that's a terminology I have not heard since it was first coined back in the late 90s. Like, what year are we in where people are still calling somebody a wigger? That's a term that they are like 20 years late. Because I think that phrase got coined in 99, 98, somewhere around that time. And I think I think they started to come up with that phrase when Eminem first popped on the scene. Because I think that's where the terminology of wigger became popular, was from him. I don't think he called himself one, but that was a terminology that came out around the time when he burst onto the scene. He said, and grown men and women started spitting on our kids as they walked up the ramp. They were throwing food, cups, and whatever. Now, these are supposed to be so-called grown adults. Now, like I tell you, if you look at the picture, the ones that's standing there by the ramp at the railing, those are the ones who were calling them the N-word. They were the ones spitting on them. They were the ones throwing food and all types of things at these guys. Had that been me, especially with all that equipment on, and because those guys have that size on them, I would have made it like a stampede and trampled all over their asses, left scuff marks all over their damn face. But allegedly, that's what would happen. They called my student trainer a little monkey, and they were saying who let them off their leashes. Godfrey said, they need to be on a leash. They never should have been here in the first place. A punch was thrown, Godfrey said, after an Almont parent bumped my player and the player bumped him back. The parent punched the player in the face before my player started running to his aid. Now, this is a parent, y'all, a grown adult who assaulted, that's what it should be called, who assaulted a minor who would be declared a child. No arrests were made, not surprised, according to the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, but a spokesperson said Monday officers are still investigating the incident. Loosely translated, they ain't gonna do shit. They basically got away with being racist pieces of shit and assault. Multiple assaults, verbal and physical. Because when you throw something and it connects, that's a physical assault. A Denby play and spitting, that's biological warfare right there. A Denby player was briefly detained to ensure his safe removal from the situation. All my players and coaches were not involved in the fight or the altercation. The school district is deeply disturbed by the actions witnessed this weekend during the Almont-Denby game, Vitti said in an amended statement Monday. Based upon preliminary findings, it is our understanding that Almont adult spectators were cursing and spitting on our coaches and players after the game while leaving the field. The disrespect toward the city, school, and players continued on social media after the game, where Almont fans used numerous racist stereotypes. We look forward to getting to the bottom of what occurred based on factual evidence to determine the district's next steps on how to best support our schools and its administration, coaches, and students. And you know what's so crazy? The coach is giving a play-by-play of what happened. You have a video showing what happened, but they still need to quote-unquote investigate. So you could hear what these individuals are saying. You can see that they're throwing things. You can see that they're spitting. You can see that they're fighting. But they need to investigate that, and it's almost like they're trying not to take the word of the coach who's giving them the rundown of what's going on, even while it's still being displayed in the video, as if it's almost as if they're trying to turn a blind eye to it, or if the coach is making all of this up. And this is Detroit we're talking about, so it doesn't surprise me because Detroit has a very divided separation between the two main groups. And not to mention, I think Detroit is going through a very hefty gentrification process right now. Referees ended the game in the fourth quarter because of aggressive play. Denby had -1 yards of total offense through 3 quarters and did not have a first down until 6 seconds into the fourth. Godfrey was upset at the discrepancy in penalties. The official score sheet had Denby penalized 16 times for 174 yards and almost flagged 8 times for 26 yards. A week earlier in the regional final, Almont had no penalties called against it. Talk about some racism on the field as well. It was a good game all the way up until the last couple of minutes, and then personal fouls just started happening. Almont head coach James Loosby said, I think the refs felt that the safety of the players was in jeopardy, so they called it. There were a couple of cheap shots here and there. A kid got his helmet ripped off and a knee in the face, but that player was immediately ejected. I think the refs handled that fairly. After the referees ended the game, Almont's team lined up in the customary handshake while several Denby players sat on the ground near midfield. At that point, there was a cordial handshake between the team coaches before Almont players sprinted towards the north end zone for their post-game talk with Loosby. Players did not shake hands after the game, Loosby said. While Almont gathered in the end zone, 2 Oakland County Sheriff's Department officers took the field as Denby exited to return to his locker room. Denby exited the field with members of Almont's band, which was repeatedly chanting hard work. The chant, members of the band say, is a tribute to the saying made famous by Floyd Mayweather and something it has been chanting all season. Godfrey said the chant also included Know the Rule Book and Play Smarter. Almont band member Trevor Forsyth said on Twitter a Denby player shoved him during those chants, igniting a bigger shoving match near the northwest end. We are saddened at the incredible accomplishment of the Almont Raiders football team, including making it to our first MHSAA state final, has been overshadowed by the regrettable behavior of a handful of spectators at Saturday's game. Almont Community School Superintendent William Kalmar said in a statement, we are investigating fully allegations that member of the Almont Raiders marching band taunted players from Denby High School while both groups attempted to exit the stadium after the game was called by officials. If we find evidence indicating that there was any taunting, those students involved will be disciplined. They need to discipline the parents too. At this time, we have no evidence of such behavior by members of our marching band, dance team, cheerleaders, or student body. There is no evidence of misconduct by our football team, football coaches, or staff. Almont Community Schools is cooperating with authorities to identify spectators who may have ignited Saturday's scuffle. If any spectators can be identified breaking the law, we will refer them to the appropriate authorities for prosecution. It says, and then it just talks about the school facing its next team in the coming weeks or so, or the coming days. They can take that little so-called alleged investigation and shove it up their ass, because we know they're going to drag their feet along with this whole situation right here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto my Instagram story and I'm going to read to you that lengthy post because I didn't read it, but I want to see what this person said. It sounds like it was a count from somebody who was there. Okay, so I'm looking at it right here, and it's coming from somebody named Bob Berg. They said kids were spit on, pelted with garbage, and one of our young men was punched in the face by an Almont parent. After we were able to get our kids in a safe area, they locked us in a caged area in the corner of the field, and we just wanted to get the kids safely on our bus. Almont parents were spitting on our kids and throwing things. They were treating our kids like animals. Social media jumped out to badmouth our kids because we are a black school. No one protected our kids. Our great principal was spit on. We were pushed and verbally abused by two of the officers. Guess what videos can lie? Apparently. We had mace canisters aimed at all of us. The sad thing is all of our coaches and kids respect law enforcement and authority. They are so respectful. No one protected our kids from the adults. Our student manager was called a monkey by one of the officers. He has battled cancer and is a 3.8 student and a great young man. This is really sad. The record will be set straight. The sad thing is these kids are raised in racist homes that have so much hate that they don't stand a chance. Ignorance gets passed down generation to generation. I have never been as proud as I am to be a part of a great school like Denby, great HC, great staff, great alumni, great teachers and administrators, and most of all, the greatest kids anywhere. Looking up in the stands while being locked in a cage area and having some woman with 4 teeth total in her mouth call me a wigger and throwing the N-word around like candy reminded me why I love all these Denby people, especially our athletes as much as I do. We are so much better people than most of these racist bastards, and I promise the accountability of the attacks will be addressed. I promise you these kids are resilient. We will be back. Next year you might send us to Macintosh, but we will be prepared. Anchor down Tars. Best of luck to Detroit King. Win another state championship. Now that was from a white guy. Like I said, his name is Bob Berg that put that in there. And everything that he says right here, and this is a raw statement right here, pretty much lines up with the article I wrote because of that, especially that line where it says wigger. But I never knew. But they didn't mention names in that article. But this is the guy that they called a wigger. Like I said, wigger. That is a terminology that I have not heard in years. Like, that's a true blast from the past right there. But yeah, this right here doesn't surprise me. Like I said, it literally reminds me of Jim Crow from back then up to now. When they say make America great again, this is the part they're talking about. And then they act like you should not fight back against their ignorance. I'm sorry, you spit on me. You better hope that the jaws of life and the wrath of God hold me back from what I'm prepared to do to you. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next one.